Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Where's My Masculinity? We're going to have a great conversation today. I'd like to start by having my guests introduce themselves.
Hi, Yanela Somdaga from the Eastern Cape in Mount Freya.
Same here, Tulani Mhlauli from the Eastern Cape as well.
Perfect. I think my first question, to sort of set the context for some of the stuff that we'll be discussing, is having grown up in the Eastern Cape, what does a statement that says, I am a Xhosa man, mean to you? Mhlawumbe ngizoqala ngoYanele.
So Xhosa men, it means you've qualified from one stage to the next. I think that's the foundation of what it means to be a Xhosa man. To be a man in Xhosa, it's a particular process that you'll have gone through. So not everyone can say I'm a Xhosa man. You can say, if you are speaking English, I'm a Xhosa male at best, but Xhosa man, it means you've gone through a particular rite of passage, so as it's referred to. So that's what it means to be a Xhosa man. There's nothing beyond that. It means you have qualified from one stage of being inkwenkwe to being a man. We can get into details about what it means to be a man, but that's what it means,
Okay.
in my view.
And then Tulani, how do you see that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything different to what Tuenela is saying. He's right. It's all about from Inkwenkwe to Indoda. That's how we define it in Eastern Cape. Basically.
And based on your lived experience, right? You mentioned the rite of passage. How did you navigate, or do you think there was a disconnect between what the rite of passage to be a Xhosa man prepared you for versus the reality of being a man in greater society today in the places of work that you're at, in the relationships that you've had, etc.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Interesting enough, actually. The concept of the passage from being a boy to being a man. Part of it is to 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 educate you, maybe to teach you on how to be a man. Um, but once you are in a space where you have to be a man, naturally, what has been taught or has been passed on to these boys when they are becoming men, the two don't necessarily go together. My view is the practice itself, and I know we're not talking about the practice, but generally, how we define manhood when it is that passage from being a boy to becoming a man, and actually what happens in real life, the two don't talk to they don't talk to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if I understood your question was, there a disconnect between what the Xhosa nation prepares their boys to be as men versus what the greater society needs?
In your lived experience, yes.
So
Yeah.
I think the question is not fair in
Okay.
this sense this year. The Xhosa nation has its own world, and therefore when they prepare you to be a Xhosa man, it's in the context of their world. Once I step out of that world, that bubble, it's not applicable. Therefore, it would be unfair to put it up against, to say, when you get to the greater society, has it prepared you for it? No, it prepared you for the Xhosa bubble. So I think we just need to be careful when we look at that. You can ask the question to say, are there some attributes or qualities that I can say exist in both worlds? That might be a question that we might need to explore. But not for a second must be mistaken that the Xhosa nation prepares you for a greater world. The greater world is not their concern. It's the Xhosa nation.
Yeah, you want? Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you analyze. I like what you analyze saying here. Because the concept of being a Xhosa man, there's being a Xhosa man, there's being a man. Uh, in Eastern Cape, that would work. But a man in Eastern Cape and a man in Joburg, to me, they become different. Um, where I'm going to is I can be a strong Xhosa man in Eastern Cape. Take me to Joburg. That's not applicable. Doesn't work at all. Um, where I'm going to is in agreeing with Oyanela. It's all about the context. Where am I? I can be a Xhosa man in skin fully, and then I am qualified, I'm everything, and I belong there. Take that and apply that when I'm in Joburg or Cape Town. It's it's different. I get now as Dibani at all completely. Yeah. What I'm going where I'm going to is maybe that doesn't necessarily prepare me for the world. It might prepare me for Eastern Cape, where there's other closer men maybe, but it doesn't prepare me for the world. That doesn't help me be utata and groom him to be a man as well as Dibani. Yeah.
And then in that journey, yeah, fine, from this transition from the context of the Xhosa nation, and then you're in this other context, right, which is either Cape Town, Joburg, you're in a corporation that has maybe different views or beliefs of the world that are different to what you were then prepared for in terms of that rite of passage. When you look at your own personal journey, how did you manage that, right? That transition between template yasekhaya iti 1 2 3 4, but the world is something completely different.
Yeah. I don't want to seem like I'm always running away from the question, but I think, you need to accept the fact that when you go through the stages of being a Xhosa person, amabhaca, it even gets more complicated. Amabhaca. So when you go through that process, so you must understand that the maturity that you will learn through that journey will tell you to say, when I cross the border into Eastern Cape, here, because the people, the environment, everything knows I'm a Xhosa man, therefore I can behave in that manner. When I stepped out into KZN, where I went to high school, I had the maturity and the journey from being inkwenkwe in Xhosa to being indoda. It was the same journey from being a Eastern Cape to being in the corporate to being in the greater world. Because remember, it's a process. You go through as inkwenkwe as you observe and learn and do certain things towards being a Xhosa man. That journey itself must not be taken for granted. It teaches you quite a lot of important lessons that teach you about transitioning. To say, ulindile, we were growing up this year as a makwenkwe, but because he's older than me by a year, he goes into entabeni. Now ulindile, we were playing amadayisi and playing whatever together the month ago. But come December, ulindile, when he goes to manhood, I have the maturity to respect Lindile's position, even though just a month ago, so I'm saying that journey, the process itself, it enables you to be able to say, when I switch over to a different place, keep it at home. When I'm at Esbayeni, not Tulani, and then we go home and I walk into Eyadin Kamama, I know how to behave. It's part of that process. So I think we are fortunate that we are able to learn through the stages to understand that, listen, life works out in stages and in context. So I'm a Xhosa man. Xa ndingena eyadini kamama, I'm not. I'm her last born. But xa ndiphuma ndiye esibayeni ndiyindoda type of thing. Yeah. That's my view too.
But still, yeah, I agree. You put it nicely, put, and you just forgot the last part. Once you are out of your mom's house, I want to take you to your work environment. How are you becoming a Xhosa man there? How do you apply the same, all these stages that you just brought up now? Then go to Espan, be that Xhosa man. How do you become a Xhosa man in Espan, for example? Yeah.
Espan, I don't even attempt to be a Xhosa man. I attempt to apply the lessons I learned in the journey to be a Xhosa man, to say, I'm now at work. I am the receptionist at work. And in life, in context, now we incorporate. There's a receptionist, there's a CEO, right? The same way, back, you take it back to the Xhosa context of males. There's inkwenkwe, there's umfana, there's indoda, there's amaxhego. I think you simply change the titles, in my view, but the respect, well, the lessons you learned about how to respect different stages is what is going to be applicable, in my view. I'm a receptionist. The CEO could be a female, but I know that in a context where there is order, I know my place, I know what place is above me, and I know what respect to give it. Yeah, I think that's how I would approach it. It's saying, in this context, what I know about context is that structure is to be respected. Therefore, you respect the structure. I think that's what I would say.